Well, hello everyone. My name is Mike, and thank you for joining us. Today I'm going to show you some maker education and STEM learning tips that you can do at home. So you should see on your screen right now, Triad Youth Makers. Triad Youth Makers is an organization that I started recently to help parents and students discover the joys of maker education, both in school and at home. And obviously with most of us doing our learning remotely these last several months, I've been asked to kind of put together some tips and tricks and some projects you could do at home with your students to encourage maker education and STEM learning at home. So on this website, you'll find tons of useful tips and tricks and projects that you'll get to use or you can try to use with your students. Some of them are a little more advanced, but the ones I'm going to show you today are going to be pretty basic and easy to get started with. I'll have no cost and low cost options on the website, so you'll easily get to pick kind of what level you're comfortable with in terms of expense, and all the projects are easy to get started. So if you look at the page here, you'll see there's several links at the top. You can learn a little more about Triad Youth Makers and a little bit about my background and why I started this organization. If you've never heard of making or maker education, there's some pictures and some little text here and some tenets that we're going to go over about maker education. And then most importantly, there's this projects links. And the projects are going to show you all the different types of projects that you can work on at home with your students. So let's get started. Before we look at some of the projects, I wanted to share some tips and tricks in what I like to call maker tenets. Some good best practices that you should be thinking about when you're doing maker education or STEM learning at home. So if you've never heard of maker education, again, I encourage you to go to triadyouthmakers.org and read a little bit about it. And this image is on that website here. And so some of the things to think about in maker education is, how do we merge science, technology, and art together into one? Some people might be interested in art, some people might like technology, but how do we put them together? One of the tenets of maker education that I really like is using familiar materials in unfamiliar ways, and you'll see that in some of the projects today. Create rather than consume. That's a big one. We live in a society where we tend to consume a lot, but we want our students and our young people to be able to create as well. Express ideas via construction. Fail forward. Failure's a scary word in school, right? And we try to avoid it, but failing is actually a great way to learn. And so how do we fail forward? That's a skill that we need to have our young people practice. Go ahead and get stuck. Kind of very similar to failing, right? It's okay to get stuck. Revisit and iterate ideas constantly. Embrace the fierce urgency of now, a great Dr. King quote. And be comfortable not knowing. That's a big one for you parents. It's okay if you don't know all the answers. Model how to learn and how to fail with your students. That's something that they're going to do throughout their life, and the more they see you do it, the better that they're going to be prepared for the challenges of after high school and after college. So those are just some of the things to think about as we move forward with the projects. So let's take a look at some projects. Let's first look at two coding projects or computer programming projects. Sometimes you might have heard of that word coding. Coding is also referred to as computer programming. Coding is kind of the new term that a lot of people use. So again, we're on the triadyouthmakers.org website. You're going to go to projects, click there, and then this site will take you to, or this link will take you to a bunch of projects that you can choose from. I'm just going to show you a couple today in this video, but stay tuned for further projects, or certainly feel free to explore this website on your own. I'm still developing and building it, so over the summer you'll see more and more projects popping up on here. But right now we're going to look at the one that says computer coding. So computer coding and programming, and we'll go down to these two options here. Now if your child and student has done some programming in school before, maybe they've done Hour of Code or done Scratch or block-based programming, either one of these links is a good place to start. I would recommend if your child is in elementary school or early middle school, Learn to Code with Scratch programming is a good place to start. If your child has done some programming before, particularly block-based programming, or maybe even taken a programming class in middle school, this second link here, Learn to Code with Python programming, is a good place to start as well. But all three of these links are great. They're completely free and they're a good place to start. They're self-sufficient, meaning that the student will be walked through step by step on what to do. They're completely free. You don't even need to make an account if you don't need to or don't want to. If you want to, it'll allow you to save your projects, but you certainly don't have to. And you'll start here at the top, and this particular one is using Scratch, and you'll make a rock band here. And inside of the project, it'll tell you exactly what to do. You'll just follow the links, click each of these down here. When you're done, you'll keep clicking, and it'll just follow top to bottom, left to right, and it'll tell you what to do. Again, completely free, no account necessary. So I encourage you to go to the coding section of Triad Youth Makers. Again, to get there, you go to triadyouthmakers.org, click on Projects, go to Computer Coding, and then any of these no-cost options are a great place to start, whether it's Scratch programming or Python programming, or if your student is advanced, I would encourage them to try this advanced level using some JavaScript and some graphics programming. Have fun!
We're going to look at making a Rube Goldberg machine, or sometimes called a Rube Goldberg contraption. And so a Rube Goldberg machine is basically just a very overcomplicated device used to solve a very simple problem. So first, pick a problem. So maybe you want to pop a balloon, or knock a box over, or maybe something a little more advanced like open a window. And then take a bunch of household items. So over here I have a bunch of household items that I've been collecting over the years. Just random stuff, toilet paper tubes. Here's an old tray for some ice. Cap, some paper that I don't want from the mail. Here's an old magazine, all sorts of stuff, bottle tops, styrofoam, whatever you can find around your house. It could be consumable material, meaning stuff that you would throw away, or even better, stuff that you could reuse. So cardboard is another great example. So I have a bunch of cardboard scraps over here that I've used for other projects. Yours might not be cut into rectangles or squares like this, and that's okay. You can just find random cardboard. Here's some paper towel tubes, whatever you can find. And the objective here is to figure out what problem you want to solve. So maybe start real simple, right? And so maybe I just want to get it to so my device is going to knock over these 2 paper towel tubes. So without me touching anything, it'll be basically, think of it as like a big chain reaction. And I'm going to press start my chain reaction, then I'm going to let it go, and then in the very end I will get my paper towel tubes to knock each other over, right? Now yours obviously you want to make it a little more elaborate, but the reason this is such a good project is because it really teaches design and engineering skills, and it gets you to problem solve and think. This one is tough. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of work. I've done this in the classroom as a middle school and high school teacher, and I've actually had my students design a whole contraption that takes up the entire classroom. It took us weeks and weeks and weeks to set it up, okay? For this, you might just want to have a table. I'm on a table here, kind of a typical table. So maybe a table you have in your house, or you could even do it on the floor. And the nice thing about using household materials is you can set it up and take it down pretty easily. If you want, you could even tape things together or use hot glue to tape your contraptions together. But the whole idea here is to pick a problem and then design a very overcomplicated solution to solve that very simple problem. And it's called a Rube Goldberg device or a Rube Goldberg contraption. Have fun!
No matter what projects you choose to do, the last step is one of the most important. In this step, what you need to do is evaluate, reflect, and share on the learning process that you went through during this project. So for parents, this is really something that you help your child do. There are many ways that they can evaluate and share what they have learned. So some of the things that they could do is they could take a picture with your phone or a phone that they have access to or a tablet. They could draw pictures about their experience. They could write a brief story. They could use their phone or a computer to record audio of themselves talking about their projects. They could make a short movie, paint a picture, sketch an idea, or a combination of all these. Then once you've done that, share that on social media, share it with friends and family, just talk about it with friends and family. The key here is this evaluation piece. As we know from school, evaluation is so important, but evaluation doesn't always have to be a test or a quiz. Talking about and reflecting and documenting and sharing what we've learned in the process we've gone through will make the learning experience all the more valuable. And those are the soft skills, those skills that we're really looking for our students to gain. Those are the things that will be valuable to them as they go forward in their careers in high school, college, and beyond.